Welcome again to another edition of Just the Truth. Glad to have you join me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio to lose weight for the last time in 2024. Visit myphdweightloss.com. So a day after dropping out of the race for the Republican nomination, Vivek Ramaswamy shared the stage with Donald Trump to deliver an enthusiastic endorsement of the former president. Ron DeSantis went straight to South Carolina, and Nikki Haley's back in New Hampshire where she's in a do-or-die situation. Rumors are that her donors expect her to at least have a strong second-place showing in New Hampshire, or the money may dry up. New information about charges against Hunter Biden making false statements on the application to purchase a firearm. Federal prosecutors say that a brown leather pouch used by Hunter Biden to store the gun, surprise, had cocaine on it. Sadly, the U.S. Supreme Court yesterday rejected an Indiana public school district request to defend a policy that restricted bathroom access by sex. We'll get into those details. And millions of borrowers with existing student loans still have not made a payment since the bills resumed in October after a 3-year hiatus. Some admit that they're refusing to pay out of a protest.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
With Iowa now in the rearview mirror, well, not exactly. I'm still in Iowa because my flight was canceled, so I'm having to take a later flight. Hopefully, we'll get out later today. Of course, the excuse was weather, and I guess there is weather all around the country. Iowa produced a decisive outcome on Monday. There's no arguing about that. Politico, though, and several other political analysis type newsletters are dissecting it and trying to make it look as though, Donald Trump really didn't do as great as he thinks he did. Politico writes that, yes, it left some questions unsettled. Donald Trump posted a sweeping 30-point victory, they say, but among a small sample. They say, boiled down to its essence, his victory was built on the votes of just 7% of Iowa's registered GOP voters. Second place wasn't really resolved either, they say. Ron DeSantis edged out Nikki Haley, with neither delivering an inspiring performance. Of course, the caucuses did accomplish one thing. They made New Hampshire the whole new ballgame. All eyes on New Hampshire just next week. With Asa Hutchinson's departure from the race, Chris Christie's exit last week, some of the more vigorous Trump critics are out of the race altogether. GOP congressional leadership, with the exception of Senator Mitch McConnell, has largely, according to Politico, and in their words, folded and fallen in line. Now short of a Trump defeat in New Hampshire or a close second-place finish from Haley or DeSantis, it's looking like the nominating fight might not even make it out of January. And look, there's a whole host of people who, after Iowa's big victory, including Senator Lindsey Graham and others, are saying, hey, it's time. It's time for the GOP to rally around the man that we've all known for months now is going to win this nomination and prepare to win in November. DeSantis traveled to South Carolina. Some of you may have actually even gone to his rally over at the downtown airport in Greenville. Obviously, I wasn't there, but some of my friends said that it was a packed house. He's a distant third in New Hampshire, so I guess his strategy now is to try to do better in South Carolina on our February 24th primary. There's a full month, though, between the two primaries. Some say that without a decent showing in New Hampshire, that his campaign is not built to last that long, that the money may be drying up for Ron DeSantis. Haley's just as pressed. She won only one of Iowa's 99 counties, and you may have heard about that. She barely won it by a single vote. The story told by the Iowa entrance polls was a grim one, according to Politico. She says she failed to win among college graduates and got crushed among non-college grads. She finished a close third among women and a very distant third among white evangelical Christians. Now, Politico makes a good point here. They argue Haley's strengths are that she ran strongest among self-described moderates, liberals, and those looking for a candidate with the right temperament. Politico writes, she finished first among caucus goers for whom foreign policy matters most. She dominated among those who think Joe Biden won the presidency legitimately and those who would not consider Donald Trump fit to be president if he were convicted of a crime. Politico makes a good point. Those traits might make her a formidable candidate in a general election, but not in a GOP primary. In the contemporary Republican Party, it's the profile of a candidate with a short shelf life. In the wake of Iowa's results, Haley's donors are already getting a little antsy. According to CNBC, they reported that she faces pressure from some of her top fundraisers to either win New Hampshire or at least finish a close second. And without that momentum, there's little chance of Haley winning her home state of South Carolina just 4 weeks later. She currently trails Trump in the Palmetto State by a wide margin in the polls. There's a couple of states, Nevada and the Virgin Islands, will caucus in early February before the South Carolina primary. They're so small they really, I'm not going to say they don't matter, but they won't make a difference. So what is it going to say for Nikki Haley, the former governor of South Carolina, if she can't win her own state? Love to get your comments on that on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-5639. One final note on the Haley campaign. Haley is trying a risky new tactic in the race. She immediately mounted an attack on Donald Trump one day after her third-place finish in Iowa. She started a pro-Haley super PAC a pro-Haley super PAC, I should say, started promoting a TV ad that depicts Trump as a bully and a liar. Her campaign released a memo calling the former president more vulnerable than commonly believed, and that's her message, is that she believes she can beat Joe Biden and Donald Trump can't. The problem is, for Haley, is she's got to get past Donald Trump first to have a shot at Joe Biden or whoever they end up nominating. Haley announced that she will not participate in two scheduled debates that media outlets have scheduled ahead of the New Hampshire primary unless Donald Trump joins her on the stage, suggesting that she plans to just completely ignore Ron DeSantis and just go after the front runner. Now, that'll be interesting, won't it? Because Donald Trump's already said he's not going to debate. So is Nikki really trying to call him out? Or is this just a way for her to stay off of the debate stage as well? And what's the media outlets going to do? Will they just let Ron DeSantis stand on the stage by himself? Or do they cancel them? A day after dropping out of the race for the Republican nomination, Vivek Ramaswamy shared the stage with Donald Trump to deliver an enthusiastic endorsement of our former president. The two focused their attention against primarily Nikki Haley, who has been climbing in the polls. At a rally with hundreds of supporters packed inside of a country club in southern New Hampshire, Ramaswamy wasted no time in his new role as a enthusiastic Trump supporter.
You know why we're here, patriots across the state. We are in the middle of a war in this country. That's what this is. It's not a war between black and white. It's not between Democrat and Republican, even in a deeper sense. It's between the permanent state and the everyday citizen. Between those of us who love the United States of America and a fringe minority who hates this country and what we stand for. And right now we need a commander-in-chief who will lead us to victory in this war. That's what we need in this country. You got to know you're in a war to win one. You can't win one if you're asleep at the switch, have your head stuck in the sand like most Republicans. And I think that's going to require somebody who isn't bought and paid for, a businessman, not a politician. Anybody heard of that? And that's why I was in this race, but I'll tell you, the people of Iowa spoke loud and clear last night, and I'm a big believer that we, the people, create a government that is accountable to us, not the other way around. That we, the people, choose who leads this country. And so we heard we, the people, last night, and that is why last evening I met my friend here. We met in person, and I told him that I would endorse Donald J. Trump for President of the United States and do everything in my power to lead us to victory in this war.
It was the first time that Mr. Ramaswamy had campaigned for Trump. He told supporters earlier yesterday that all New Hampshire events for his campaign had been canceled. In a text from his campaign to his supporters, he wrote, "Unfortunately, we're canceling all New Hampshire events previously scheduled prior to the New Hampshire primary. Thank you for your support. America first." Ramaswamy is expected to continue supporting Trump before the state's first-in-the-nation primary next week on January the 23rd. I'll be there, giving you full reports along the way. Be sure and tell all your friends that we'll be giving you reports from New Hampshire. You can listen, of course, here on Just the Truth, and you can also hear me on the Mike Gallagher Show. Just go to MikeOnline.com. Download the Mike Gallagher Show podcast as well. Download the app. You can also watch us on the Salem News Channel. Just go to snc.tv. Ramaswamy, of course, finished fourth in Iowa this week. He got just under 8% of the vote, with Trump getting the 51%, the historical 51%, and we know where DeSantis and Haley came in. Trump's campaign has sought to build a huge grassroots operation in New Hampshire. Polling shows that he leads the field among likely Republican voters and has led the field since last summer. Double-digit leads in most local polls conducted so far this year. That said, he's only held a few rallies or retail politic type events, which has given Nikki Haley some space in the Granite State to come within striking distance. Haley's been there quite a bit. That's part of her strategy. She has the governor, Chris Sununu, traveling around New Hampshire with her, doing events, doing smaller events, because New Hampshire is a retail politics state. They like to see you. They like to meet you. They like to shake your hand. Not that any of us don't like that, but I think New Hampshire has the reputation of you really got to come see us. You got to come where we are. Can't just depend on your slick TV campaign that you're spending millions of dollars. So I guess that's probably why you saw Trump immediately start focusing on Haley. During his speech when Ramaswamy was endorsing him, Nikki Haley was at the center of that. He said, Nikki Haley in particular is counting on the Democrats and the liberals to infiltrate your Republican primary. You have a group of people coming in that are not Republicans, and it's artificially boosting her numbers here. Now, Trump was referring to the state's largest voting bloc. There's nearly 35% of voters in New Hampshire who are undeclared. And they'll be allowed to vote in either the Republican or the Democrat primary next week. After a decision by President Joe Biden not to include his name on the ballot, local pollsters are really trying to figure out just how to weigh the numbers and how many of the Democrat Party will go and vote in the Republican primary. Now, there was some rumors in Iowa, and I saw some of this. I can't tell you how widespread it was, but since the Democrats were not caucusing in Iowa you have to register as a Republican or a Democrat or whatever your party is. But if you showed up, if you were a Democrat, if you registered as a Democrat, you showed up at a caucus, they had a form, and I watched some people complete that form that would switch them over to the Republican side of the aisle and would allow them to participate in the caucus. Now, there's talk that a lot of that took place in Iowa. I don't know. Can't confirm it. Haley is, of course, hoping for what they have described as a wave of momentum in New Hampshire. Now, if you heard her speak after the Iowa caucuses where she came in third, when she thought she was going to come in second, you still would have thought that she had won. She somehow spun that as, third place was good. On to New Hampshire. We'll see. She probably has a bit of an advantage of having Governor Chris Sununu, who endorsed her last month, traveling around the state with her. Trump, that has not gone unnoticed with Trump either. He took a swing at Sununu, who he has battled with since launching his re-election campaign last year. Trump said he ran for president. He just didn't have the courage to say, I'm running for president. He was mentioning Sununu, who spent months investigating a path to his party's nomination before finally deciding he couldn't make it. And it was a smart decision. Before we leave presidential politics today, more good news for the Trump campaign. President Trump leads Joe Biden in Georgia, according to a new poll just released. A survey from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution and the University of Georgia shows Trump with a 45% to 37% lead over Democrat Joe Biden among registered voters. The rest of the respondents, about 20%, said that they are either not sure, not voting, or would not be supporting another candidate. 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639 is how you can send me a quick text on the Furman Ford text line. I love to get your feedback. You think New Hampshire, if Trump leads or wins New Hampshire the way he did in Iowa, is that it? Is the primary over? Send me a quick text on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-5639. Better yet, call, leave a quick message. Your emails are welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Let me take a moment to tell you about my friends at PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition who really changed my life, and that's not an exaggeration. Over 3 years ago, I met Dr. Ashley Lucas and the whole team at the Greenville office of PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition. They have offices in Asheville, Charlotte, Lake Norman, and you can do the program virtually. If you're listening to me in another state or another country, you can still do PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition. I've been sharing my journey with you because I think it's important that you know that this program is based on the science of nutrition. They teach you all about food, what to eat, when to eat, how to eat. I lost 30 pounds in a matter of just a few months. And over 3 years later now, I've been able to maintain that weight loss. And that's why I can confidently tell you that PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition works, and it'll work for you as well. 864-252-4925. Write that number down, 864-252-4925. Give them a call. Set up your first consultation and see if this program's right for you. If you need to lose some weight, if you want to feel better, if you want to be able to focus, sleep better, do some things that maybe you haven't been able to do in quite some time, PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition, you owe it to yourself to give them a try. Find them online at myphdweightloss.com. PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition, the official partner of the Clemson Tigers. So Hunter Biden's gun pouch had cocaine residue on it, according to prosecutors. Does this surprise you? Federal prosecutors say that a brown leather pouch that was used by Hunter Biden to store the gun that he purchased illegally, or he made gave false information on the application, I should say, that this pouch that he stored his gun in had cocaine on it. Now, that was the question that he answered incorrectly, because you're supposed to – there's a question that asks you if you use illegal drugs. And if you do, you can't buy a gun. And at the time Hunter Biden purchased this firearm, he was a crack addict. He was a cocaine addict. He drank. He was in bad shape. And that's why they don't let you buy guns when you're having a situation like that in your life. Yesterday, prosecutors asked a judge if he would reject Hunter Biden's efforts to dismiss the gun charges because investigators found cocaine residue on the pouch, the actual pouch that he used to store the gun in. Prosecutors told the judge that the strength of the evidence against him is overwhelming, rejecting Hunter Biden's claims that he was being singled out for political reasons. Biden previously made those incriminating statements about his drug use back in 2021 in a memoir. Now investigators are saying that the cocaine was found on the actual gun pouch itself, which proves that he was still using at the time. A chemist with the FBI determined that the residue was cocaine, according to prosecutors. In their statement, they said, to be clear, investigators literally found drugs on the pouch where the defendant had kept his gun. Biden pleaded not guilty to federal gun charges in the U.S. District Court of the District of Delaware back last fall, which accused him of lying about using drugs in October of 2018 on this gun purchase form. Hunter has acknowledged struggling with a crack cocaine addiction during the period of 2018, but his attorneys say that he did not break the law. Hunter Biden has since said that he has stopped using drugs and is working to turn his life around. Biden was charged with making a false statement on the purchase of a firearm, making a false statement related to information required to be kept by a federal firearms licensed dealer, and one count of possession of a firearm by a person who is an unlawful user of or addicted to a controlled substance. According to the indictment, on or about October 12, 2018, in the District of Delaware, the defendant, Robert Hunter Biden, in connection with the acquisition of a firearm, that is a Colt Cobra .38 Special revolver with serial number RA 551363, knowingly made a false and fictitious written statement intended and likely to deceive the dealer with respect to a fact material to the lawlessness of the sale of the firearm. The indictment also states that around that same period of time in 2018 through between October 12th and October 23rd, let me get my date straight here, in the District of Delaware, that Hunter Biden, knowing that he was an unlawful user and was addicted to these stimulants, narcotic drugs, other controlled substances, did knowingly possess the firearm with that serial number, said that the firearm having been shipped and transported in interstate commerce. Fox News first reported on the story in 2021 that police had responded to an incident in 2018 when a gun owned by Hunter Biden was thrown into a trash can outside of a market in downtown Delaware. A source with knowledge of the October 23rd police report says that it indicated that Haley Biden, who is the widow of President Biden's late son, Beau, and who was in a relationship with Hunter at the time, threw the gun owned by Hunter in a dumpster behind a market near a school. A firearm transaction report reviewed by media sources indicated that Hunter purchased the gun earlier that month. On the firearm transaction report, Hunter Biden answered in the negative when asked if he was an unlawful user of or addicted to marijuana or any depressant, stimulant, narcotic drug, or any other controlled substance. Biden, you may recall, was discharged from the Navy back in 2014 when he tested positive for cocaine. This guy is bad news. Unfortunately, he has struggled with addiction issues, it appears, for a long, long time. By the way, House Republicans have paused their efforts to hold Hunter Biden in contempt of Congress as they negotiate a new date for a closed-door interview. The House Rules Committee will no longer tee up the contempt resolution for a floor vote during its meeting this week, contrary to Republicans' previous plans. A leadership aide familiar with the decision and, of course, speaking on anonymously, said that the negotiations are now underway for him to comply with the subpoena, so we are holding on the contempt vote while they work to set a date. Should Hunter Biden be given extra time like this? I mean, do you just go ahead and go through with it? Does he ever learn from anything, you think? Or is it the right thing to do? Should Congress do what they're doing, pause, to negotiate with him after his little stunts that he pulled the past couple of weeks of showing up on the U.S. Capitol steps and then showing up in the hearing for 17 minutes and walking out? Should they cut him some slack, or should it be full speed ahead with the contempt charge? Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-5639. Sadly, the U.S. Supreme Court on Monday rejected an Indiana public school district's request to defend a policy that restricted bathroom access by sex. I'm going to tell you all about that in just a minute. This is an important ruling and didn't go the way we would want it to. Portions of today's show made possible by Furman Ford and our sponsor of the Furman Ford text line. It's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who live here, people that you can actually walk in, see, meet, text, call. Matthew Furman, Jim Furman, quite often when you're at the dealership, if you need some help, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line with every single transaction. That means when you stop in, that the Furmans are happy to help you. They'll help you navigate some of the great deals they have on some of the selection of pre-owned vehicles, the newer vehicles, and hey, if you need service, and it doesn't have to be a Ford, they service all makes and models. You're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks and weeks to get that service scheduled. Visit my friends at Furman Ford in Lawrence. Find them online at FurmanFord.com, FurmanFord.com, FurmanFord.com. So the Supreme Court declines Indiana schools' appeal on a transgender bathroom order. Here's what the case consisted of. The justices declined to hear an appeal by the Metropolitan School District of Martinsville after a lower court ruled that a middle school's policy which barred transgender students from using facilities like bathrooms or locker rooms that align with their self-professed gender identity, that this violated students' constitutional rights and ran opposite of federal anti-discrimination law. Attorneys for the school district had asked the court to, quote, preserve the autonomy of school boards to make these decisions. A 2023 ruling by the Chicago-based 7th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals said that a student who was identified in the court papers as AC is protected under a law called Title IX, which bars self-discrimination in education, and by the Constitution's 14th Amendment requiring that people be protected equally under the law. The Supreme Court did not issue a comment on its decision. The High Court has in recent years, and unfortunately, have mostly dodged controversial cases involving transgender rights. Now, a spokesperson for the Indiana Attorney General, Todd Rokita, who supported the school district's lawsuit, criticized the Supreme Court for refusing to weigh in, saying the Supreme Court did not take a necessary opportunity to provide clarity, particularly with such a split among the appellate courts on this issue. It makes little sense for SCOTUS not to resolve the difference in federal cases, but because of this split, children in other parts of this country will be properly protected while others will not be. I've never understood this argument. I've never understood how courts say that they're protecting the rights of a transgender child. You may have one child out of hundreds, and they're protecting their rights, and I get that. But what about the hundreds of little boys and little girls who end up in a locker room or in a bathroom with a member of the opposite sex? What about their rights? Republicans in several states have pursued various laws that affect transgender people, including policies that reinforce bathroom and locker room segregation by sex. school sports participation. I mean, we've seen the chaos it's created in women's sports particularly. Access to sex reassignment, medical procedures for minors, and restrictions on what schools teach about sexual orientation and gender identity. In this Indiana case, it involved a 13-year-old gender dysphoric student whose mother sued the school district and middle school principal after her child was prohibited from using boys' facilities. Now, this was a little girl. What mother argues for her little girl to have to use the boys' facilities? What mother wants her little girl to go into the boys' locker room? Again, I struggle with this one. I don't get it. A little bit of history here. In 2022, U.S. District Judge Tanya Pratt ruled in favor of this young lady, AC, ordered the school to allow bathroom access that corresponds to her gender identity. Then the Seventh Circuit affirmed Pratt's ruling, prompting the school to appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court, where we got the have a 6-3 conservative majority, but refused to take it up this week. I'd love to know what their thinking is there. The school district argued in the court filing that Title IX permits schools to segregate bathrooms by sex and that the Equal Protection Clause does not prohibit schools from protecting the interests of students in shielding their bodies from exposure to the opposite sex. Again, it's that small minority who's hurting the rather large majority. Lower courts have issued mixed rulings on school policies. Last month, the 11th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals ruled in favor of a school that required transgender students to use gender-neutral bathrooms or those matching their sex, not their gender identity. And look, that's fair. I can do that. However, you had other federal appeals courts that have ruled that transgender students can use bathrooms that accord to their identities, their self-professed identities. Now, these cases you would have thought would have pressured the Supreme Court to resolve the discrepancies, but it didn't. In 2021, the Supreme Court left in place a Fourth Circuit ruling that favored a transgender student who had sued to use the bathrooms associated with that identity. More recently, the Supreme Court, in April of last year, refused to permit West Virginia to enforce a state law that banned transgender athletes born as males from participating in female sports in public schools. It's just wrong. It's just wrong for our kids. On the Furman Ford text line, Michael says, I think the Iowa caucus runoff, as everyone figured it was, and that there's no doubt in my mind that Ramaswamy is going to be the vice presidential pick for Trump. Maybe. Who knows? Who knows? Thank you, Michael, for that text on the Furman Ford text line. Tony says Nikki Haley's biggest Tony, who I say is Nikki Haley's biggest fan, which really not. He's her biggest detractor. Tony says, it was good to hear the quitter finish third. Keep on winning, Trump, so the quitter can't win. Trump 2024. Franklin says, good morning, Joey. Corruption, that is what I would like to see fixed by Trump. I will be praying for that. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Franklin. A number of people that I spoke with at the caucus this week said that corruption was one of their top issues. And that's pretty bad when you have a presidential administration like we have right now. That, yes, we have immigration issues. We have economic issues. We have wars in other parts of the country. But yet, the first family is perceived to be so corrupt because of their business dealings that corruption is a major issue in this presidential election. Ace writes, Joey, President Trump won very easily. This should show the left that America isn't buying their deception. I believe that DeSantis is wasting his time coming to South Carolina. Yes, he'll have supporters, but only from the never-Trumpers. Have a beautiful day. Hope you stay warm this week. It's going to be extremely cold. Yes, I understand that it's cold in South Carolina. I'm coming from cold Iowa back to cold South Carolina. Ace says, make sure to wrap those pipes and protect the outside pets. A says, I replied to you, we don't have any outside pets. Jesse and Simon would not consider being outside. They would rather be inside on a heated blanket. We spoil them. Susan writes, the DeSantis' and Haley's reaction to Trump's historic landslide win in Iowa reminds me of Howard Dean's infamous scream speech. I hadn't thought about that in forever. Remember when Howard Dean just kind of went crazy? I'd even forgot about Howard Dean. She says this was after his loss to John Kerry in 2004. She says they weren't as loud, but they were equally delusional. And Texter says, for fun, not mala, but mafia. Make America first in America. I had someone text the other day saying that rather than MAGA, it should be changed, and they gave me some suggestions. So, mafia, make America first in America. Our text of encouragement today: a pessimist sees the difficulty in every opportunity. An optimist sees the opportunity in every difficulty. God bless. Thank you for that. Your comments are welcome as well on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. So when you borrow money, it's real simple. You work to pay it back, right? But there's some student loan borrowers who believe that this simple rule doesn't apply to them. And coming off of a 3-year grace period because of COVID, they're now refusing to pay in protest. I'll tell you why in just a minute. Portion of today's show brought to you by Discounted Appliance Warehouse. If you're tired of buying appliances from inexperienced sales staff who have absolutely no appliance knowledge, then you need to head over to Pickens and meet my friend Jeff at Discounted Appliance Warehouse. I have an A-plus Better Business Bureau rating, nearly perfect reviews on Google. And the team at Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they have the knowledge that you need to give you the confidence that you're going to make the right purchase. Appliances are not inexpensive. You can't afford to make a mistake. Their award-winning service department, they have extended warranties and an expert installation team as well. They've got you covered well beyond the sale. You're more than just a credit card swipe to Discounted Appliance Warehouse. Let me encourage you to head over to Pickens. Find them online as well at dawpickens.com. dawpickens.com. So millions of borrowers, and look, if you've listened to me for any length of time, you know that this whole student loan thing just drives me insane. I just don't get the idea that someone borrows money for something and they think they shouldn't have to pay it back. Millions of these student loans still have not made a single payment since the bills resumed this past October. After over 3 years, they didn't have to make a payment. Some are admitting that they're refusing to pay as part of a protest. I'll tell you what, that if they're, and I'm going to offend somebody here, but if they're that stupid that they think, oh, we just won't pay it, we'll let them know we protested, then they'll just they'll forgive it. If they're that stupid, they need to get their money back from wherever they went to school. They need to ask for a refund from whatever institution of higher learning they went to. In an Intelligent.com survey, which was conducted right after the first of the year, 1,000 federal student loan borrowers, 25% of those said that they had not made any payments at all. 9% of those said that they were holding off on paying their bills intentionally in an effort to pressure the government into canceling their debts. Now, can you imagine refusing to pay your mortgage as a protest to the bank, hoping that the bank would say, okay, we see you're protesting, you're not paying us, so we're just going to forgive it. We're going to wipe your mortgage clean. No, the bank would put you out on the street, wouldn't they? So why is our federal government not doing the same thing? Why are they not prosecuting these people who are refusing to pay their debt? That's our money. According to the story of the nearly 1 in 10 delinquent borrowers taking part in this, quote, boycott of student loan repayments, 44% said they believe their protest will lead to the cancellation of federal student loan debt. 28% says it's likely the boycott will convince the government to cancel all student loan debt. Where are they getting this from? Why do they think that by protesting, not paying it back, that the government's going to say, "Oh, well, okay, don't pay us. That's okay"? But even if no further debt cancellation comes from the boycott, most of the protesting borrowers believe that their efforts will have an impact, according to the survey. 86% told Intelligence.com it's very, 45%, or somewhat likely, 41% said, that the boycott will draw attention to the student loan debt conversation. 64% said they believe it is highly likely, 32% somewhat likely, 18% that the boycott will help elect political candidates who believe in loan forgiveness. So we have a movement underway. That's what we have then, I guess. A student loan forgiveness party. Wow. Financial experts are advising against missing your loan payments. Debt Hammer founder and CEO Jake Hill told the outlet, although the frustration behind the student loan boycott is understandable, it's unlikely to lead to positive change, he said. Instead, it will destroy the credit scores of those who choose to participate. That may not seem like a major issue in the short term, but failing to pay your student loans can make it more difficult to obtain funding for future purchases. The vast majority, 69% of the borrowers who still have not resumed their loan payments, said they have not paid the bills because they cannot afford to. Another 18% said that they plan to hold off until September 2024 to resume paying because that is when more severe consequences for missing the payments will start kicking in. And of the borrowers who have resumed making their payments, 94% told Intelligent that doing so has been financially challenging. Many borrowers have had high hopes that their loans would be wiped out by President Biden's loan forgiveness plan to erase up to $20,000 in debt per borrower. But the Supreme Court, as you know, struck it down last year. Since then, the White House has announced other efforts to reduce student loan debt, including erasing $127 billion of debt owed by about 3.6 million borrowers. Let's again hope that the courts will not allow him to do so. That's it for today. Thanks for joining me on Just the Truth in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Hope you'll join my mailing list. Just go to joeyhudson.com, click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails with the most up-to-date news. Appreciate you spending a few minutes of your day with me. Keep your comments coming via the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY, and keep those emails coming to Joey at joeyhudson.com as well. I'm back tomorrow, hopefully. Hopefully I get, I'm not flying around in the air somewhere. Hopefully I get back home today. Pray for me. Pray that I get home safely back to my family with my sweet wife Peg and Jesse and Simon. Remember, folks, God's got this. He's in control.